The Whispering Shadows. It was nearing midnight when James arrived at the old, creaky house he had inherited from his estranged uncle. The house sat at the edge of town, surrounded by a thick forest that rustled in the wind. No one in the family had wanted the place. They said it was cursed, but James didn't believe in such things. He was here to sell it, nothing more. As he walked through the dusty rooms, the wooden floorboards groaned beneath his feet. Faint echoes seemed to follow his every step, but he dismissed them as the house settling after years of neglect. He checked his phone, no service. With a sigh, he lit the fireplace and settled into the old armchair, determined to rest before finishing the paperwork the next morning. That's when he heard it. A faint whisper, soft and indistinct, coming from somewhere deep within the house. At first he thought it was just the wind, but as the whispering grew louder, he realized it was something more. The sound wasn't random. It was a voice, though the words were impossible to make out. Heart pounding, James stood and listened, straining to locate the source. The whispers seemed to come from behind the walls, snaking through the house like a cold breath. He followed the sound down a narrow hallway to the basement door, which stood slightly ajar. The whispers were louder now, beckoning. Against his better judgment, James opened the door and descended the creaky wooden stairs into the darkness below. The air was damp, thick with the smell of decay. His flashlight flickered as he reached the bottom, casting long, eerie shadows across the stone walls. Then he saw it. Etched into the wall was a symbol, old and strange, glowing faintly in the dim light. The whispers seemed to emanate from the symbol itself, swirling around him in a chorus of voices. They were louder now, insistent, as if they were trying to tell him something. James stepped closer, and as he reached out to touch the glowing mark, the whispers stopped. The silence was suffocating. Suddenly, the shadows in the corners of the room began to move. Slowly at first, but then they grew, stretching, twisting, slithering along the floor and walls until they surrounded him. James tried to back away, but the shadows closed in, pulling him toward the wall. The symbol flared with a bright, unnatural light, and the whispers returned, louder and clearer now. They weren't just random voices. They were calling his name. "James, you've come to join us." His breath caught in his throat as icy tendrils of shadow wrapped around his arms and legs, pulling him closer to the wall. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. The last thing James saw before the darkness swallowed him was the symbol glowing ever brighter, and the shadows whispering around him, "Now you're ours."